Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. Now, let's go to Zimbabwe. President Mugabe is provisioning his wife as the next vice president of Zimbabwe, leading us to wonder if Zimbabwe is set for a Mugabe dynasty with Grace, the first lady, as vice president. Zimbabwe's first lady could mark the stirring of a national political dynasty for the Mugabes, as the ruling ZANU-PF endorsed Grace as a potential candidate for the vice presidency, following the dismissal of former Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa. The overwhelming support for Grace comes ahead of an extraordinary ZANU-PF Congress to be held in the capital, Harare. That gathering next month is set to endorse President Robert Mugabe as the party's one center of power and sole presidential candidate for the 2018 elections. Sources say Grace Mugabe's election to the presidium was a strong possibility that could lead to her succeeding her husband. However, not all Zimbabweans are excited about this possibility. Some feel Mugabe is no longer doing the things how they thought he would following the war. It's seeming like he wants to rule the country with his wife, and some Zimbabweans feel they can't allow that. What do you guys think? Is Zimbabwe ready for dynasty rule? Apart from positioning his wife, President Mugabe, even the other day, renamed the Harare International Airport after himself. It's now Robert Mugabe International Airport. And Robert Mugabe is 93 years old. He wants to die in office. And his former vice president has had to run into exile.
I think he has successfully taken a step into creating a dynasty already by, single-handedly firing the deputy and then proposing his wife to, assume that office. Invariably, he would end up handing over to his wife. Of course, he has alleged disloyalty, amongst other things, and he said the deputy had exhibited the traits of disloyalty over time. So looking through the window of time, it was about time they took him off, That
same deputy has been with him for more than 3 decades.
So I think it was more of politics than the excuses they are dishing out. And ultimately, I think the man has his eyes ahead of time. He wants to be Zimbabwe. He wants to be called Zimbabwe, and that's the kind of dynasty he wants. Unfortunately, that is Africa. The man is no longer himself. He's no longer in that office anymore. He barely could walk without assistance left and right, and then he's still thinking of, who comes after him. It's sad. Unfortunately, I think the people of Zimbabwe are helpless. I don't know.
Well, maybe they are not so helpless after all. Some people have said maybe the firing of the former vice president and his exit into exile, could lead to some kind of rebellion. Okay. And that you could have perhaps in Zimbabwe a people's revolution. But already the government has resorted to repression. Some supporters of the former VP have been arrested.
Yes, I was just going to say that.
And it's a crime in Zimbabwe to even attempt to criticize the president or his wife, who has also exhibited traits of
yes, it would be difficult, except we're looking, or envisaging something like what happened in Liberia. In Libya. Otherwise, the man is completely in charge in Zimbabwe, and to attempt to, uproot him or undo his influence is going to be a tough one for whoever the former vice president is seeking help from. And I don't even think at this time and age anyone wants to go into that kind of, operation that would demand so much money, human resource, and all that.
Anyway, I think that at the end of the day, President Robert Mugabe and his wife should learn from history. Nobody rules forever. And we hope that after Mugabe, as it will happen someday, there will be no deluge in Zimbabwe.
I want to believe so too.
Following reports obtained from the 2016 World Internal Security and Police Index, Nigeria police have been ranked worst in the world in terms of the ability to handle internal security challenges. The indices used in assessing 127 countries from 4 key areas, namely capacity, process, legitimacy, and outcomes, aim to measure the ability of the security apparatus within a country to respond to internal security challenges both now and in future. Nigeria has failed in its ability to measure up to its law and order mandate, process, legitimacy, and outcomes, is the report. In addition, high levels of political terror have been an issue for Nigeria since 1993, with the country scoring a 4 on the political terror scale every year since then. And terrorism continues to be one of the greatest threats to internal security. Terrorism has increased dramatically over the last 3 years, with more than 62,000 people being killed in terrorist attacks between 2012 and 2014. The biggest rise in the last year occurred in Nigeria. However, spokesman of the police force, Jimoh Moshood, rejected the report, noting that the Nigerian police are the best in Africa, claiming that the report is a clear demonstration of mischief, ignorance, and calculated attempt to distort the feed being recorded by the force in ensuring adequate security and safety of Nigerians. I know our police force may not have been the best, but to be the worst, that really says something.
Well,
to be the worst.
Well, it's a report based on 127 countries.
Yes.
Even based on the report, they were rated worst of 127 countries, not necessarily the worst in the world. The world has more than 200 countries.
The countries facing crisis were excluded.
Facing crisis?
Yeah. The countries that are facing,
Yeah, it would have been nice to have more details, of the integrity of the agency behind the ranking itself. Because it will come to me as a surprise, if you say that Nigerian police is ranked, we know the challenges that they face. And for many of the states, particularly the urban centers, that used to be the hotbed of crime, I would think that the Nigerian police had done fairly well, given the constraints that we know that they face, the resource constraints that they face. Then the other point is that, trying to blame the police for tackling terrorism, I think is asking for too much. Knowing that terrorists have been known to declare a state, the IS, are you going to say it's only the police that is going to face the Islamic? No, it's not a matter of police. The terrorism, organized terrorism, anywhere in the world, will be, a combination of efforts. Who is fighting Boko Haram in Nigeria? Is it police? It's the army and the air force, that are fighting. So I don't think you should blame the police for the rise of terrorism.
For me, but that singular pronouncement, I think the report, both the report and the agency, behind it, are discredited. I know we have challenges within the police, formation here. We know challenges of corruption, of lack of capacity, oftentimes not the fault of their own and all that. But to say we are the worst in about 170 is not correct. It is too absolute, if you ask me.
Congo is even rated better than
That's
Nigeria.
not possible.
Well, but there was a point made in that report, which is that Nigeria is under-policed.
Yes.
So while, it makes sense to be skeptical about reports prepared possibly by parachute researchers,
No, not just under police. Well, they are also underutilized. I mean, every little thing you bring in the army. I mean, things that the police are supposed to take care of.
So I guess that,
the army.
rather than dismiss the report, wholesale, there may be certain points that have been raised in that report about capacity, about legitimacy, about process, about outcomes, okay, that the Nigerian police would like to take a look at, or that should form the substance of public debate. In terms of outcomes, how well does the Nigerian police function in terms of the administration of justice?
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of respect for human rights.
Yeah, human rights, yes.
That will deal with process. In terms of capacity,
even mannerism,
So there may be issues there. But what you are dealing with, what you've been talking about, is the label. Okay. From a patriotic point of view. And say, our country cannot be the worst. But how about the issues raised?
I don't think they are fundamental enough to earn us that place in that.
No, you've made a point about the label.
Yeah.
Okay, but are there issues?
Yeah, there are issues. I agree. Just like you have said, there are, of corruption, of capacity, of legitimacy, even of mannerism, like I've said earlier. And I think the leadership ultimately is the problem. I don't like the idea of drafting in the army, to come and quell an issue that you can only deploy the police, to contain. I think these situations, they give the impression that the police is not or are not competent enough, to man or police the society. And that impression, regardless, we are not doing badly with our police, honestly.
Terrible. Would you like to address the
Which
issues?
military deployment did
Abba.
you have in mind?
Anyone across
Just
the
give
country.
one example.
You have Python dance, you have Crocodile Smile, you have all over
I
the
thought
country.
it was Python dance.
Do you want to comment quickly on the issues?
Yeah. No, I commented it. When you have threats to the state by groups who are likely to be armed, who had also been reported to have in their custodies, you don't see that as something for the police alone. Yeah. So I don't see anything wrong with deploying. Yes, complementing. Actually, where you know that some individuals have been armed to disrupt, law and order.
But this has become a norm.
Yeah, that's why we have the army in addition to the police. I see no.
Not to the extent of militarizing the Nigerian state and compromising the integrity of our democracy. Well, you're watching This Day Live, this Sunday talk show here on the Arise News with me, Ruben Abati. We're going to take a short break now. Do stay with us. The Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Desert Foxes of Algeria on Friday played out a 1-1 draw in the last game of the qualifying series for Russia 2018 World Cup in Constantine. The first half of the game ended in a barren draw, with Nigeria enjoying much of the possession, but failing to utilize a couple of chances. Both teams fought hard in the dead-rubber encounter with Nigeria, having claimed the sole ticket of the group, which also has Zambia and Cameroon. Nigeria will now head to Russia to face South American giants Argentina in a Grade A friendly game on Tuesday. Morocco have also qualified for a first World Cup since 1998 after beating their closest Group C challengers Ivory Coast 2-0 away from home on Saturday. And Tunisia joined them in securing passage as they drew 0-0 with Libya. The Atlas Lions went into the match in Abidjan just needing a draw to consolidate their place as pacesetters in the final group match, but they went on better in what was an assured display. It is another achievement for Morocco's French coach Hervé Renard, who famously ended Ivory Coast's Africa Cup of Nations drought in 2015, a famous victory against his former team. Tunisia also only needed a draw to keep the Democratic Republic of Congo, who began the day 3 points adrift to top spot in Group A, and they duly accomplished that with a 0-0 stalemate at home to Libya. It will be Tunisia's first World Cup involvement since 2006 in Germany, and they joined Morocco, Egypt, Senegal, and Nigeria as Africa's 5 representatives in Russia. We made it to the World Cup, along with 4 excited as I am, but I just wonder how far Nigeria can actually go. Welcome back. It's still This Day Live on Arise News. Gentlemen, how far can we go?
Well, I'm excited that we've qualified, and though not too happy that just 5 African countries made it there. But I'm proud of Nigeria. I know Tunisia would do well, and I also know that Egypt would give some good showing. But ultimately, I just want to urge our guys to go out there and do Africa proud, because ultimately a lot of people will be looking up to Nigeria in that tournament. And I'm thinking that there will be sufficient preparation. This will not be strewn by the usual lack of money, not paying them their dues, and not all sort of filthy stories that usually, filter out of their accounts each time we have this kind of tournaments. And I'm thinking and hoping and praying that the authorities will see the need to actually encourage these boys and make them give their best. Patriots.
But when you say you are not happy with the 5, you prefer other countries, or you want the slots for Africa?
I want more slots for Africa.
Okay. Terrible.
Right, it's to congratulate the the Super Eagles, and wish them luck that they get to go far. You know, they have equal chances as any other team in the tournament. So let's hope that they do well. The Eagles have a tendency to surprise you, you know. Let's hope that this will be one of the,
I hope
the positive surprises.
It's not counting on luck. That's something like
many Nigerians are actually looking forward to the World Cup.
Sure.
So every World Cup season, there's absolute peace in Nigeria.
Yes.
The entire country is
no
united.
bombings, no.
You know, ethnicity suddenly vanishes.
Yes.
All the divisions are put to the
The
background.
only thing that unifies us, yeah.
You know, football. I mean, it's something
Yes.
Nigerians are excited about. And hopefully, we would do the magic in Russia and win the World Cup.
Preparation, hard work.
So Super Eagles, go for gold, go for the cup. You're watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel with me, Ruben Abati. Stay with us through the break. When we return, we'll hear more from your favorite economic analyst, Ayo Teriba, here to update us all on things that are budget related. Budget 2018.